closing item 3, moving on to item 4, summarizing 2 scrutinizers of the minutes and 2 vote counters. At this stage, I want to remind you that if you are people who are up as candidates for tasks, rather not have them as vote counters or scrutinizers of the minutes, but you may now suggest people. Do we have any suggestions? None? Okay. Do we have anything? So it'll be a vice vote counter. Let's start so could supply us with minute scrutinizers. Aalto and another person, are they available? Secretary General has ticked them off. Repeat the names. Chapter only had one of those, so Aalto and as vote counters, please. Petra Minkinen suggested. Anybody else? We just need another name. I propose Jenna Arpa, who is available. We can do so that these people can act as seconds to one another. So we get a total of 8 names. So chosen as the names, the vote counters and scrutinizers of the minutes. Closing discussions and closing item 4. Moving on to item 5, confirming the agenda. The agenda has been delivered along with the invitation to the meeting, and I propose that it will work as our agenda. Opening discussions, no request for the floor. Approving the agenda. Closing item 5, moving on to item 6, announcements. Okay, so from Kulderengas, I'd like to announce that this is the first meeting in this year with the new representative council, so I'd wish for a picture. That is a great suggestion from Kata. So now we have the new representative council in such large numbers, so we'll take a picture here from up front so we can get these all into different kinds of social media, etc. So Nora has the camera ready. So put your faces here. Is there anybody here in the room who does not want to appear on the picture? This will go as the color per photo for the Facebook group. Okay. Now be very, very representative. So represent. There's a nice light in the projector, which will be showing on the photo. I'll have to cut off it from the sides. Interpreter did not hear that. Okay, everybody's having fun. Good. Very nice. Thank you a lot. Any other announcements? None, it seems. Closing item 6, moving on to item 7, latest news from the central office. Presented by Hautamäki. Hello. Awesome to see all of you, guys and girls, from this point of view. For a change, I am Tapio Hautamäki, the vice chair of the board, and focused on societal influencing and advocacy. You will see me here in the meeting, so when we have these office news from the central office, I will be the one presenting these. If you have any feedback, so please send it straight to me. So beginning, if the Secretary General can get the slides going. Trying to get a good lighting here, but So what has been visible in the office has been we have lots of new faces. We have a new board. And if you have the idea that why is the board doing nothing, which is the fact that the board is every day sitting from 10 to 4 in the big meeting room learning things, and then we have kind of evening activities as well, stakeholder group meetings, etc. We also have lots of new volunteers, and training them takes time and resources, especially Hilja Korhonen, who has done lots of valuable work hours in. We have several new members of staff. Yeah, let's put the dark lights then, so if you can see better. We have Aino Korpinen, our art director, Siiri Liitia as our information officer, Petteri Nummela as our ICT specialist, and then we have several recruitments ongoing. So central from the triplets there, we have Ahto Harmo. We are searching for a new communications and association organization sectors expert. Then we're searching for an advocacy and communications chief. We are currently undertaking interviews. And next up on the list we have a specialist for the advocacy of arts. On the right hand side, Anna Merikari, we're looking for a follower to her. We're also taking interviews on this task. And on the last we have a specialist on educational policy. We have Susanna Koistinen here on the left. We are searching for a replacement since she has quit. And that recruitment we have decided to continue the call for application. If you know good people, we are taking in CVs. Also, we have Rosa Väisänen, who was an international expert on international affairs, but is currently in full-time employment from now on, especially in charge of international students and international liaison. Then to real estate. The Miestentie new construction is progressing very nicely. We also got a loan plan confirmation, and the aim is that it would be finished in December if we continue with our current speed and pace. So we can start looking at when can we get the new tenants in. And then we have Jämärän Taival 7. The basic renovations are done, and Jämärän Taival 5 is going into renovations now. We have something in our services sector especially pertaining to it. We are organizing kind of a communal spaces and organizational spaces. So since you have these associations which you are involved in, you might have been contacting us on that. Then we have advocacy and societal influencing. We have the presidential panel that we partook in quite a quick pace. It took place yesterday. AYYE was participating in that. We offered communications support, negotiation support, and also the business student ballroom. And I was there presenting with a member of whose board. You may get a Facebook link out of the email. You can get the stream and see the saved video if you missed it. Also, student well-being is a thing that's been discussed at the office. We had an all-well survey. We had a video of results, of the old results. We sent some information on that, and also from the all-well we will get another survey upcoming. And we'll be meeting with the university based on these. The advocacy sector is a new thing. We have help@ayy.fi will act as an email where you can reach all of our advocacy specialists and experts. So if you have any questions relating to the subject, you may contact us. The communications have not yet started, but we have the post box up and running. And then on the community sector, like I said, on the first sector, we have the volunteer training. which have been undertaken from OK20 upstairs, where we had volunteer training, and then on the culture and organizational sector, I went to Mikkeli to do some training. Then we have 2 events. We have security training, and Gravitatio, the event, is looming ever closer. Any questions regarding the office? Doesn't seem to be. Thank you. If nothing else, discussions. So the proposal was that the Representative Council decided to place on record the news from the central office. Decided. Closing item 7 and moving on to item 8, status update and preliminary discussion on the Student Centre project. Secretary General Firm has presented us, or is presenting us with this presentation. So if not, I will operate this slideshow. Okay, thank you. I'm kind of in an intermittent stage. We have a new board trying to get the Student Centre project going and prepared some discussions on the subject. So first, a status update, where we are. We have new stakeholder parties from AYYE, from the board. On the community side, we will have Nora Tanska for the community and real estate with Emma Savela, board members responsible for the project. And also we've delegated the responsibility to the staff of the Student Union. We also have partially the Secretary General, the Financial Director and the Real Estate Manager. And in addition, we also have on Tuesday the board gave the Financial Director the power to develop our recruitment process for a new member of staff who will also be working with this. And at this stage, Pyry Huhtanen is also involved in the project, so that there are no information cutouts. What will be coming up next? We on AYYE side, we have suggested that we could have meetings with the different parties' financial committees about the project plan, and this will most likely take place. We've gotten green light from many of the parties. Preliminarily, we've had a meeting on the Hartala company in late January or February, but we will probably move it because we want to first meet with the financial committees before discussing with Hartala. Also, open workshop about the project plan and facilities program, which will be upcoming in the upcoming 4 weeks. Something to discuss is also next Thursday. We have the orientation for the Student Centre next Thursday. Yes. And you also can express your thoughts there. The main weight will be that you can be up to date on the project. Regarding the zoning, I think that we were originally planning that the zoning would be going forth in January, but it looks like it's going to be delayed a bit, which is not really that surprising. The city of Espoo is not very efficient in zoning. Moving on. I threw a question on Facebook on what you wanted to hear about, and reminded you all that the Representative Council last year wished that you would have some sort of vision discussion or strategic discussion on the Student Centre. And I started this discussion on Facebook. Sparked it up, and we had some ideas and thoughts, what can be found out, what kind of things would be nice to be discussed. Not everybody could also have the, I couldn't answer all of them, but I'm trying to do my best here. One vision we have during last year in May, we discussed, or May or June, yeah, we decided on the borderline conditions, and especially on vision that we have these, been raising this, that main focus is that the Student Centre is a meeting and hangout spot for students where all Aalto members have a reason to come to. So this will be kind of our main vision statement, which will be visible there that needs to come to fruition in the student center. Also in the vision we discussed that the student center must organize student activities in business and festive activities supporting them, as well as other business activities. It's the most important goal is student activities and services. These are direct quotes from our borderline conditions paper. This is from the vision of all parties considering. Also have a link to the actual document. And on AYYE specific vision, we want to raise a few points, especially that is the modifiability and versatility of the facilities are very central. Not too many concrete walls which will kind of bar us from modifying the spaces. That it can be developed in the future as well to suit the needs of the future. Also, different focus is that all AYYE members have a justifiable reason to make use of the student center activities, which is a very, very central point. And we also wanted to broaden the fact that what can AYYE offer, kind of the portfolio of services that we offer our members and volunteers. All right. What would the vision mean in practice? This is kind of my 5 cents. So I wanted to say, like, the main focus is that the student center is a meeting and hangout spot for our students. Currently, the office is not something that, like, of course, there's the current members can also come to the office for maybe picking up the student card, so you can get it from Frank. But we're trying to make this new student center kind of do this vision work, offer the best student life in the world. So that isn't right, kind of not happening with these current facilities. Take questions at the end, please. Then, what would be the reason for everybody to come? We've been trying to find out, survey, and we haven't really succeeded. We tried to get it through Aalto, and no comprehensive info yet on that part. What we've got the fact that we can have like a bar, a restaurant, cafe, but this is not ambitious enough, I'd say. It's not enough. Then we wish to especially develop our current volunteer spaces. We have 40 plus 20 square meters that we have about 150 volunteers, everybody changing yearly, so we don't really have the facilities required. We haven't made a survey yet. We can make one. It's completely possible, but we haven't really done that yet. We had an operator change, and we haven't had the time, honestly. Also, our service venues are not offering us kind of these new models. We have the upstairs with the service venues, facilities. It's too small for our current activities, but we can't really fluctuate or change it at all. Like, can we organize workshops there with the students or together with our advocacy or social policy people? We can't really organize any kinds of closed meetings with students in our current facilities or whatever that may be, this new thing. But it doesn't really offer us a lot of opportunities. And also to state that we could have like services offered by other parties than AYYE, KY and TF. Then I also have these preliminary discussion questions which are not easy. I know you have comments on these and ideas and suggestions and thoughts, but let's try to answer them to the best of our ability. I think that people should take their slips. You have your voting slips. Good. Okay. So we could maybe kind of have if it's only okay with you, to start with the kind of a preliminary show of hands vote or a kind of discussion. Where do we want to continue the vision discussion? Actually, no vote yet, but a few requests on the floor on this, and then vote after that on what that might mean. Sounds smart. If you have any clarifying questions on these, we can start with them. Okay, requests for the floor can be made. That's several ones. Okay. I think that this issue has been up on the table with the old representative council a lot, and we have an excellent situation. We have a very, very capable board. We have people who have been on board of the project for a long time. We have the representative council chairperson who has been kind of held the briefcase or the portfolio for this project last year. So we could actually focus the discussion so that we can get concrete things and we can involve the people with the most expertise, meaning AYYE board members, and through that as they do their work and bring it forth to the representative council, all the information, how the project is doing, and I focus and I have complete trust that Onni can keep the representative council well informed, that we can take a strong stance if needed on the project. We at Luova, we weren't really actually sure that is the vision for the student center clear enough, or kind of like with the right word form yet. We discussed had discussions on the student center, and we had some stylistics that offer diverse, like we have this hangout place for students where everybody else, the forward form that the student center is a meeting and hangout spot for students where all Aalto members can have a reason to come to. This is kind of place where all Aalto members can come. Some will come more often, some will come less, and out of the combo of services, like people would have these different reasons to actually come. But of course you can kind of deduct this vision that people would have a reason to visit as much as possible. These are kind of different views. Luova would like to clarify the vision, that we can actually know that we are planning the same building, all of us. And in this stage, I think the vision discussion should be continued. Inside Luova, we have the aim to clarify our own vision by that workshopping, through which we can actually give a more concise opinion. Also, we've had discussions with our stakeholder groups and associations within Luova, and we believe that the representative groups have the best opportunity to reach the student and reach different stakeholder groups to the best of their ability and reach all of the student base, member base. I see that we don't really have a kind of like a vision that I could actually sign. Maybe discuss like concretely and properly, like when we've had this, after we've done this vision discussion, we've kind of progressed, but we can maybe get this concrete vision discussion, kind of this, like what will these services be and what will they not be. And this is something that's really in the first steps yet. We had the discussion in December, and it felt like we've had this and that and the cafes and bar, but we really didn't get any information on with what money, who will be paying what will be being built. So like we have the staff, like it'll be nice that we'll have this and that in the student center, but there is no concrete grounding. So I don't see that we kind of have a vision yet. We have kind of these ideas that what could be done, but we don't really have these ideas what will we actually do. And we also have the problem of funding, like how much have we actually done surveying on outside funding to actually get this project rolling, that we have the money so we can actually get the things done that we wish. Like, I mean, this project is really cool, but currently we don't really have a concrete reason for the general member to actually attend this, but we've had kind of more and less of these ideas, and what would be that for the everyday member. But the discussions have only been very shallow on the subject. We have to go deeper, so they don't really concern the basic member of AYYE enough, or hardly at all. So we actually haven't really heard our member base, so I can't really see how this vision would be complete. So, well, we've had these open workshops, but I think that I agree that this is something that needs to be discussed more and workshop more. What our biggest problem currently in the workshop has been is that like the input and participation has been too light. We need more people. I liked the law of us proposition that the groups themselves could activate their own associations. And this would be a very, very good idea, that everybody could do this and get their own vision on what it should be. The student center, etc. Like it would be actually sensible. I wish to also clarify or reiterate that I threw on Facebook that we could have like a movie theater. That's not my opinion. Like we should have a movie theater. I hope that people can give these ideas and suggestions without actually nailing them onto the floor. Like this is my concrete opinion. But I think that Peppi didn't mean that. But I hope that it's a clarification that this is not something that I wish to advocate, since I had this idea. Let's try and keep these discussion and requests for the floor concise. So, I think that we should continue our vision discussions. We noticed that we don't really have kind of a concise picture yet. We have lots of different groups have expressed these big requests for the floor. Like, of course, it's evident that we need more discussion on the vision and kind of a meeting. This whole discussion about meeting spot. We're kind of competing with Aalto. These are kind of issues we haven't really discussed these enough. That I wish to also say that currently it's important to remember that the borderline conditions state that this must be a hangout and meeting spot. If we have this opinion that this is not a meeting spot, we need to bring it out very strongly. Okay, I heard wrong, sorry. No, I actually don't want to talk. So. I'm kind of bothered by this vision discussion term. Like we're talking about how to implement the vision. What's the vision going to be? We're discussing it. Like should we have a movie theater or a bar or whatever? So the vision or vision discussion can, to many people, it can mean completely different things. Like we shouldn't just have a kind of vision discussion until point X and then move on to point Y and have this implementation discussion. Of course, we are moving towards the fruition of the project and actually going forth, but like I think it's not possible to kind of formulate this earth-shattering vision, which will be really, really complete and really amazing. Like we have these ideas that we should be taken into account. It's kind of a different base, but let's not get hung over on the term. So, same opinions on the vision. How much do we want to go over this kind of vision of the vision? So we need kind of these more concrete ideas. But from our borderline conditions, we've maybe kind of gotten up to the point where we can actually start defining what they might be. And at this stage, like, we need to discuss on what would everybody want there to be there, like, be in the student center, what kind of structure should we build. So is that the vision, or, like... But I think that this vision is pretty okay. And then we need to get to the actual concrete suggestions from here on out. And that these are not intermingled certain levels.
So, I agree. I think that we have a vision. Our vision is that that there's a place where we want people to come, where people can meet each other. It's nice to hang out, but we don't have the concrete means of to do that, or how we can do it in such a way that it will be worth the big amount of money that we use for it, and we have to have a good grounds on why we should build it. And one thing that came to my mind is that AYYE doesn't get any value from it, but also members of KOI and TF are also members of AYYE, so that's why it's also valuable for AYYE, so that our sub-organizations have a good place to operate in. And last request on the floor during this speech. Yes, I agree that we have had the preliminary discussion. AYYE's vision is not that successful because it doesn't reflect our will, what we really want to do. And when I talk about this concrete vision, I'm talking about thinking that what we need, what kind of rooms we need. But I think we need more time for this discussion, and it's not this meeting that where we talk about these concrete issues. No, I talk about as what kind of a historical status. But this kind of discussion would be easier for people to handle concretely. But this current vision would lead to this kind of concrete vision of how to implement it. Because we need to have a vision of, is the vision strong enough that we believe in these premises and want to implement them. And how I felt this conversation has gone is that then we're going to continue with the discussion, lock things down, but not envision that, for example, the color of walls, we could talk about that, some concrete things. Teko. Thank you. One thing. To try to follow this project. But how much have we told about this vision and about the regular members and asked them? So if we want to tell people to come there, have we asked like the regular members about their vision for the building? Because it's really significant investment. So should we have kind of a hallway survey as we did with the brand, and it was very successful. So should we ask the members on the hallways and the lobbies that what they would like to see in the student center? That would be very like essential for the vision. So it's a Luova's proposition. The groups to this kind of work, but I think we should also do it on the member level. Thank you. I agree with other people, but just use different terms. So if we want more concrete discussion, it's good to have the vision there in the background and to make it more concrete to get the project forward. But there's kind of this, for example, we had the Arts move to Otaniemi this year, and next year we have this kind of another big project, which means that the usage rate of all facilities at Otaniemi will increase. The longer we have the situation where we have more usage for the facilities than we have a space, that will affect the 12 members for the student union. And so reflecting on the progress of the student center project, that would be good if we could get concretely forward with the project. Yes, I don't think it's no benefit to rush things, especially with such a big project. Yes, a comment, quick comment. The student center really has no facilities. That would reduce the shortage of facilities we have in Otaniemi. There's another big festive space. I really don't understand this comment. Speech. Yes, can answer. Yes, in the key house that we have. If the same usage rate is without a name, then it affects it directly. So before we vote on this, I'd like to specify that our vision is the one entered into the preconditions, and if we're not happy with it, then we have to continue the vision discussion, and if you are happy with it, then we don't continue the discussion. But we will have to think about how to implement the vision. The vision discussion doesn't mean individual premises or rooms. That's the implementation of the vision. Yes, like a vote, blue slip. I'm kinda happy with the vision, but I don't think we should lock it down yet. It was more into the concrete work. We'd also refined the vision. So the vision is not yet finished, but we shouldn't work on it separately now. So that we should lock down the current vision, but it's not as finished as it could be. Yes, I think the idea that it was a more broader member survey, that would be a good thing, for example. I think we should work on the vision more. Because we can also ask about individual rooms or facilities in the survey. Do we get a third option or not? Because now this is kind of that there's no room to negotiate. We will now go with these options. If that's not okay, then you're gonna vote empty, and if there's too much empty votes, then we can discuss this more. So blue slip is this upper one, and red one is the lower one that we don't continue the vision discussion. Blue slips only blue slips. Okay. So we will continue with the vision discussion. Okay, red slips up. Let's see how many there are. And white slips, empty votes. And tear them up so there will be more slips. Good, let's continue. There's a lot about costs and ideas, what this means. It's very important to understand that this is kind of a very straightforward model. 160,000 euros costs the annual maintenance costs for the central office, and so each euro that we use for that, it's taken away from somewhere else. We have an offer on the central office, but it's a hypothetical situation that we get 2 million euros from it, and the student center would cost 6 million euros. Then we have to get 4 million euros from somewhere else. That means that, for example, selling apartments or from our investments. So we had to get the 4 million from somewhere, and we could use the 4 million for something else. For example, building new apartments. As an example, from Idalbrem, sale, we got the 4 million euros, our share. And how we could invest this 4 million euros, we could put it there. Then we could, for a 3% return of investment, that would mean about 120,000 euros for our current operations, which is 1/8 from our membership fee income currently. If we, for example, want to reduce the amount of the membership fee. This is very straightforward example of what these costs mean. So we have no estimate that how much the maintenance cost for the current project would be. There is no final estimate that we could use at this point, so it's hard to tell. Let's go on to the next slide. It's important to understand that the questions that we ask of you is that we just can get your feelings, opinions on these. It doesn't mean that it will absolutely happen when you answer something. We just want to get a sort of direction from you. And we can surely we can talk about them also later. But about the student-centered costs, let's have kind of a general discussion at the start and then vote on these things. The idea is that can the maintenance costs of AYYE's office be higher than today? So we're going to think about things that would increase it, and if we can, then we have to find new functions to finance it, or use our current assets. It refers only to the employee spaces at AYYE and not the services. The entire central office, volunteer spaces, employee spaces, everything that we have at the central office, it's 160,000 euros. What does all these costs entail? What it needs to maintain this building. There are annual expenses there, because we own it, electricity, heating, things like that. The discussions that can the new services cost more to get entirely new services, then I think we can pay more for them. For all services, I think that for example meeting room shouldn't cost more, but volunteer space is good. This lot as a meeting space. There are rental spaces next to it, which will be free during the day. So we can just look at the expenses of the central office, but also the other premises. So we should think that. Look at the big picture and see what to calculate. And I think we should divide this into many different segments. So I think, for example, I don't want to pay more in the future for meeting spaces, but I could pay more for other spaces. So it's clear to us that in our current premises, if we just move the things that we have now, then should we be able to pay less than should we find these synergy benefits with KY and TF, for example, by combining meeting facilities, for example, and also find something else for the synergy benefits. So the question is that, are the synergy benefits the only element used to save money, or do we think about something kind of new services, so new concepts that would improve our current level of services clearly? And yeah. So I think we can pay more if we get more services by paying more. I hope that we're not on the dark side, on Star Wars, because if we think about that, can something cost more than now? It's because then it doesn't make any sense if we don't think about what should we pay more for, because we need to know that what we are paying for what. Yes, I think it wasn't clear to me that of course we can pay more. For example, I thought that it may be that we cannot increase our level of expenses, and we should keep our current service level and not think about new ways to get money. because these at the office, they're not as clear to us as they are to you, and that's making it seem that we're asking dumb questions. So is there a question only about this topmost question? Yes, but if you have something general, you can also ask that. There are not any significant increase. We shouldn't have that to the costs. It would be good that all these three parties want to be under the same roof. It would help our cooperation. That would be very useful in that sense. But when we look at it in more detail, look at the costs, and it seems that we would have also other operations than what we have now at the central office. So now it looks like that at AYYE's activities there would be much more comprehensive than what we have now at the central office. I'd also take a stand on the financing issue. It would be very nice to hear that about different financing scenarios that AYYE could use to fund this. For example, by digitizing Aino magazine and other alternative solutions to fund this project. Yes, well, with Luova, we are thinking that we should aim for the current level of maintenance costs. Our opinions were pretty much divided on the issue of what would be the new thing that we're trying to look for, what we're trying to get more of. I think we all agree that we're trying to find get a building that is more than the current central office. But personally, I think that the synergy benefit that we have the facilities under the same roof, that would be already more than the central office. We will have the restaurant there, festive spaces, communal spaces, and when it's designed well, then the facilities will also enable things more diversely than the current central office does. And the thing I'm wondering is that are we kind of a compulsory thing that we're trying to look for something new, like a movie theater or a swing hall, that because no one has really come up with anything new. Everyone thinks that it's nice to have something new, but if we don't have a need for some kind of a new facilities or services, then I don't think we have to come up with something. Because in any case, it would be more than the current central office. That's my point of view, and I think that's why the maintenance costs shouldn't increase. And now we think that the maintenance costs will increase for a good reason. If we have kind of a facility that we really need, then we could have the discussion at that point and look at compare them to each other. But now we really don't have any kind of issue that is at the risk of going over this. Now it's just some new thing, and I really don't understand or see what that new thing would be. And with this next speech, please, the last request for floor. Yes, I understand everything, I agree. Of course, we shouldn't just say no, that we can't increase the expenses if we have good grounds for it. This is an expensive project and really big investment for all parties. And as everyone understands, that we'll have to keep our budget in check, and we're not making any stupid increases in expenses. And we shouldn't just compulsorily build something new. But if it is more the costs than they are now, then that's fine if we get something with it. Yes, I think I agree with Santeri, because myself, I really don't think that we have to think of something new, because I think the primary objective is that we receive the benefits from the synergy and from better facilities that are designed better. So if we want to have kind of free workspaces or other facilities like that, then I think that we could increase, the costs could increase if we could get like new benefits. For example, increase the size of the lobby and use it for events and things like that. I think it's kind of that people are not even tried to come up with something new, like deliberately. That's like the chart things that try to find something new, and that's the problem all the time. Like we really haven't listened to our members and tried to find something new. It doesn't really have to cost more, but in order to implement it, doesn't mean like money, more money, but something that people would feel that it would cover everything. We've got the member categories that we did with the AYYE vision a couple of years ago. That are portfolios about different people, and then looked at what the different people can do. We could do work similarly here. See that there's something for everyone at the new student center. So when you see that, that's because of the benefits. We get more benefits, then the cost can increase. But if people don't have to walk anymore that much, then it also reduces exercise for people. Because sitting is very unhealthy, and walking for some distances is very good also. So we're kind of missing the vision. I think it's not enough to what we have now. I think we really can't say yet that it shouldn't be more the cost than what we have now. I think we don't have to come up with something new, but I don't think we should say now that absolutely they cannot be more their costs than what they are now. Let's have a vote. Blue slips are that their costs can be more than what they are now. Blue slips present the maintenance costs of the AYYE's office can be higher than today, and red slips are that they cannot. That we try to find a solution where the costs are not higher than they are today. Yes, let's remove the word try. Just a preliminary vote. This isn't. We're not locking everything down. So blue slips now that the costs can be higher than today, and red slips they cannot. Thank you. You know, for a quicker, more straightforward issue, or I don't know if it is. So, if the maintenance costs are higher, should we find the costs somewhere else than in our current activities? Because now we have these current activities that cost 2.5 million euros per year. Should we try to fund these? Should we find the cost, the money from there? For the central office, which means cutting our operations, or should we try to find some kind of alternative financing activities for these added expenses, which would mean taking a risk, which means that, for example, we want to have spaces for companies to rent to them, or that we would sell more apartments than what we have now, which means that we will get more money for our investment activities, but that's not in line with our policy. But it's kind of a very easy questions. Try to keep this short, these speeches. Things that where we can cut from in our operations, I think we would have cut from them previously, or at least next year. So I think we've always talked about these cuts when talking about the budget. That tear iron to shreds. I'm not opposing that, but I don't think it sounds very reasonable way to finance things. And just talks about apartments. It's really stupid to sell the apartments. But of course we get the rent from apartments. I think we're going to talk about that. but I think there will be also better targets than new office spaces. So if we want to use our members' rental monies for something, it's probably not this. I think we should also find some other activities, but really see that how we really could finance this. So remember, return your voting slips so that we don't lose them. There's more here. During the next speech. During this speech, please the last request for floor on this issue. I disagree with the previous speaker about this kind of easy targets where to cut, because there may be some elements where you could have a kind of unanimous opinion, but then some people may be uncertain that do they dare to talk about these issues. For example, the AYYYE magazine. That's very significant costs, 30,000 euros from printing costs. I think we could also save something from that. This still gives sound survey. So this. Sorry, there were a few people said that they actually read AYYYE, so I think there was good. We should look critically at all operations that AYYYE has and all services, and try to find that are they really necessary for AYYYE. How much is the usage rate among our members for our different operations and services? North-Tanska board members, there's really good comments. I'm responsible for the communal side of the student center. It's interesting to hear this discussion, and we want to really take your opinions into account. Talk about these expenses. I think that we're talking about selling the apartment. Some people said that we shouldn't do that, but do you know that what are all the apartments that we have? For example, in Eastern Helsinki we have apartments where really the students don't want to live in. So I think we're very justified to try to find out how much money we could get from these apartments if we would sell them. Because at the moment, I think it's very smart that we have student apartments that students don't want to live in. This could be a potential way to see if we could use it to cover some costs if we don't want to use the money for the student center for ideological reasons. That will be one kind of issue that we're interested in discuss with you. Yes, quick comment. Yes, quick comment for the previous discussion. I think we know about these apartments, we talked about them before, and we will sell them in the future. And we also said that we will sell one building. But I think funding ongoing activities by selling buildings is not smart at all. I think we should invest in something and use that to fund the ongoing operations. But we should really fund ongoing activities by selling our apartment buildings.
Okay. This is something that's an interesting question in my opinion, that we have lots of different options, but we will end up most likely in the situation where we will have to cut from our activities, and cutting from our activities is something that we will do every year. It's being under constant scrutiny, so as a baseline I wouldn't like to cut from there, but that's something that we will end up with if we go over our limits. So a lot of the funding must come from that side. Increasing the cost of membership is not sensible in my opinion. If we can find something like a kind of magic money vending machine, or like we can get a zero at the end of our corporate relations monetarization. Like if that fails, of course, we're back at this question, and I think that selling these pieces of real estate, these housing pieces, is that we have other options, like we have these sales and benefiting from sales of real estate, which is of course kind of outside our core activities, but maybe renting them to outside corporations. Like we could maybe discuss this or look into this. I think that the housing is an opportunity, basically because they're not in our core operations, and these housing targets that are not within our core area. So yeah, we could and should actually, yeah, and we might get these cutbacks, but it doesn't actually count out the fact that we could get more funding from somewhere else. More funding is always good. Okay, let's go and vote. The upper is that can the maintenance cost of AYYE offices increase at the expense of other activities? Blue is that if they can, we have to find out where our cut our operations. And red is that we search for other options, and white is that you can't really say, you can't make up your mind. So upper option is for blue. So blue's up now. Yes. Red's up now. And white's up now. Okay. Quick comment that red fails, we are back at blue. It's a tough choice. And of course we can raise the red, but we might still end up in blue. Moving on. We have the list of services and benefits that a regular member gets from this project. So the reason why each and every one Aalto member would have the reason to come to this place, which is a hangout spot and a meeting spot, and like what would be those for the active members, what would be for the show everyday member? Searching for ideas. Let's not actually shoot ideas down at this stage. You just might toss ideas, and they will be transcripted. So let's throw some ideas around. Like said earlier, that I would see it's most important that we discuss it with the members out in the hallways. Like this would be very, very beneficial to this project, that it's not really actually valuable that we at the Representative Council sit and toss these ideas around, but we actually need to discuss with the members. Like this has not been asked of the member base yet, and that's something that needs to be done. That at least AYYE volunteers last year, well, of course the cultural people, but this issue was not queried from the volunteers. And I think if you had a workshop, we didn't really have that much people. Talking about ideas, not visions. So let's keep the request for the floor based on the ideas. Like they're discussing, like where can we get these ideas, which was from the member base. That is pertaining to this topic. If that's like ballrooms are one of the visible things, like would be for the student center, for the regular members, that will be beneficial for the everyday members of AYYE. In addition to this, we might have kind of hangout spots where you can do your homework. These are the two biggest things for the regular member to meet up. Are we discussing the first bowl or what? It's just toss ideas. Okay, we have a new representative council, but this seems like a really bad way to go about this. We haven't heard of the volunteers, we haven't heard of the member base, we've heard some of the actives, but just feel like if we could just skip this part. I wish to remind at this stage the representative council that you are the representative council. You have been chosen here to represent your member base. Of course we will ask, like I said, we will ask from our member base, but you must be able to represent and give ideas or search for those ideas actively. That it's your job as well. Wrong stage actually maybe asked, but I would actually like to say that I think that this is the right place to start prepping. Like it's regrettable that these workshops haven't had so much activity, but the representative council meeting is not the place to workshop on what we could actually should have. So let's move on if you don't want to discuss this. I think it's a good idea from Viertiö, but you shouldn't say that we don't really have any issues to discuss. We should be more in the know than our regular members, and we know nothing, so we don't really have kind of these magical solutions. We need to find the ideas, and then based on our ideas we can actually get these kind of, do the people want this or that, and then like kind of we need to find answers. We just can't go to the members and ask them for answers. I thought I'd throw some ideas. Don't applaud yet. They might be shitty ideas. We'll prepare more. Okay, we'll be preparing more ideas. We saw it pertinent that for the single members that everything should be at the same place. They can go to the restaurant, they can go to the service point, maybe get a cafe, do some work, maybe participate in pop-up style activities, come back extempore, see kind of a show, maybe see friends. I kind of get these random events which are the best points in a hybrid building like this. And AYYE activities or AYYE stakeholders can be visible in a central spot. That's for the everyday member, good part. We could have kind of a study psychologist's office, which would be easy to access, to discuss. I also already mentioned an art viewing room or showroom. And maybe even some corporations could have like kind of presentations. Of course, we'd need money for that or from that. I think kind of an idea would be that a place. I think that we have this idea that we have different kinds of activities in the same building. Like they have a store where they sell stationery and student union merchandise, and you can do a weekend brunch there. And so that's kind of a good starting point to look at existing buildings of the same type hybridized ones and go forth from there. I heard that it's 1/3 of the costs. I actually don't really have anything to add on activities to Saturday's list just yet, but especially I would underline here the fact that what activities should we have and what could we enable. Because we don't want to be in the situation where we have actual dedicated spaces to this and that just be there, because it's a hybrid and free space, and through this modular space we can actually implement different kinds of solutions. For example, viewings or shows or exposés or like that. So we don't actually maybe have to have a dedicated room for those. A point or comment that the withholdings that AYYE wishes. I think it would be very, very preferable that we are talking also on associations working on AYYE sphere of influence. It's pertinent that AYYE has an equal stance on all members and associations regardless of the actual association, so with no favoritism or of certain organizations or businesses. Okay. Concrete examples. like a smart post machine, a place where you can get more value on your travel card, book exchange. I would continue with what was already came from Luova, kind of pop-up spaces that can be used both for volunteer and also business activities and services to the students. Right, and here on what questions do you want answered in the next representative council meeting? What should AYYE do at the office? You may also give feedback on everything else on the presentation material, but only will hope that we keep it concise. Did we skip a ball? You may continue it here, but kind of the member survey is something that's been strongly presented here, and surveying the volunteers, that's something that's already been dotted down. So, have we surveyed outside funding companies? Okay, I asked this earlier. Didn't get an answer. Have we also surveyed that can our current volunteer activities work in these new volunteer spaces? Has this been surveyed? So we don't have new venues planned. Do we have a kind of like a preliminary plan? What they could be? Is this preliminary plan something that our current activities can continue? But we have not discussed with our volunteers. We have this kind of one idea session, but we have not surveyed this. Now, when we are discussing on how to survey this, we have this fact that for Vappu we have lots of people on Keto before May Day. So asking people is nice, but it's a lot more relevant before May Day or after May Day, because we have lots of more volunteers there during May Day and the volunteer spaces currently. So that the volunteers' needs can be surveyed. What works, what doesn't work in the current spaces, what do we need in the future, what kind of venues, facilities, services, and this project won't go forward, and that will go something that will happen after May Day. Nora followed by Katarina. I'll say that much, that this is the point where you can get these kind of concrete ideas on surveying the requirements of the member base, and like we need to map this out now, and I hope that we can actually get these ideas that can be implemented and used. This will help a lot. I can maybe start off with a few ideas that we've been discussing with the board, or what I've thought on myself, like what could be channels or venues that have yet to be untapped. So when we're discussing about the needs of associations and mapping them out, for example, I've been at the council chairpersonship, I've had in a committee, so that could be maybe a venue to ask the businesses what do they want. It reaches people, but it might also reach active people that are already active and have like guilds, etc., that have these own venues and facilities. Do we also want to reach those people who are not currently inactive? Taking center, like, could have this requirement for this student center, that because they don't have the venues yet, but they require them and want them. So would it be workshops? What could be the venue to actually take this workshops where we can write post-its, or should we do some sort of more broad survey? For example, in the weekly newsletter, kind of like a query, or to the entire member base. Like, it requires resources. So surveying and mapping is better, but it takes more time and it takes more resources and money. So in practicality, the aim is that we can hear from our member base as accurately as possible, but we will have the factual borderlines come into play really quickly. What would be the best and most efficient way to do this within the resource pool that we have? So moving on, I think there's strong job for the board. From this direction, we would wish more information to the representative council, know that's where we stand. what's coming next. Okay, it's kind of what's about the board does the decisions, what's smart, what's not smart, you have the best knowledge of that, and ties in these parties that have not been tied in yet. And gets this extra input. And through this we can tell like if this is a good idea or not, but we can't really... It's good that we have these questions in the future, if it's like vaguely worded, but still. It's good that we have this question in the future as well. Let's continue, but we can't really prepare here. And in this room we can't really do the preparation work only up to a degree. I hope that we could get calculations, like what are the costs, where are they going towards, and if we are building, like how much is this and that. Are there other requests besides these two? Okay, then Nora, followed by the other one. I would like to see kind of a clear, concrete list on how would the student centre better AYYE? Why do we want it? And it'd be important to think that do we have easier means of actually reaching the members and getting to our goals, so that we don't actually go forth just based on a cool vision. And we can gain that benefit by other means as well. Like, why is this a cool project? I have to focus that. Why is this good? And why do we want this? Is this something that the office needs to prepare, or do we need a broader spectrum? Is it like, is it enough if the office gives 10 reasons of why we want this? Or, well, of course, I'd maybe like the office or something, and they have the information on what is the situation AYYE is in currently and how can we better it. And it's actually like maybe we could have that the office prepares these 10 reasons and then we bring it here and discuss it. Also regarding expenses, I'd hope that at the same time the office takes into consideration that what do we actually get from making the student centre, like what's the value in getting new members and new people to visit the campus, and how many new meetings the student centre will generate, and like why is this meeting space so important in Otaniemi? Any short comments, new ideas? I think that we could like kind of this kind of caricature people and make a kind of this listing, what services do they get, and is this something that encompasses all the members? That it could be kind of very efficient. And I think that we have on the office side, we've discussed these volunteers, but I think that currently the volunteers have not been tied in, this have not been developed, and we haven't really received any feedback from AYYE's activities from the volunteers. So there's a lot of values, but they aren't really visible in the current work that AYYE is doing, which is something that like we can see these, if we can see these values in the student centre, if we are kind of have these important values on the table, especially like volunteer work. I'd like to say that we have a Snapchat on this discussion that from my freshman friend had this like, can you tell what is the student centre needed for? Well, yeah, kind of what is the feeling for students currently? Does Nico have kind of a closing argument? No. Well, what do we need it for? Well, we don't have a meeting spot in the entire campus at the moment. So that's my opinion. Dipoli does not work as a meeting spot. Keto does not. The main building, maybe learning center, but that's learning focused. We don't have a meeting spot, but that's just my opinion. That presentation would conclude there. We have We've got plus 25 minutes over schedule. I don't mind that. Regarding timetable, do you have something? I'd like to thank the format and the preparation work being done into this. I think we've had the discussion in a good format. Thank you for that. Closing discussions, moving to decide the proposal that the Representative Council decided to place on record the preliminary discussion and the news on the Student Centre. Decided. Moving on to item 9, which would be deciding the membership fee for the academic year 2017-2018 firm presenting. The situation is that this has normally been decided in the fall when we approve of the budget. We discussed it, we decided in addition to the budgetization is that we usually have this situation where we actually approve these numbers, which was forgotten. So this is a proposal here. The proposal is that no changes to the fee. We'll keep the numbers as they are. Opening discussions. No requests for floor. Moving to decide, and the proposal was that the Representative Council decided that the membership fee for 2018-2019 will be for basic graduate students €116, with the FSHS 54 euros and continuation students 42. Moving on to item 10. This will be Special Status Association recognition for Aalto Media Lab Student Association, DADA. So, hello everyone. I'll present myself. So, I'm Laura Tanska from this year's board, in charge of association and committees and the Student Centre project. So, that's why I'm presenting this item. Currently, I can say that for the next item that we've had 2 of these. Could we maybe get these requirements that have been getting? Can we get the item open? The association regulation says that what is a special status association, what are their regulations and requirements. So here we have item 13, obligations of special status associations. These have been sent to you by email in addition to both applications and this letter. And this was undertaken in the group chairperson's meeting as well. They were on the agenda. We've discussed them, and we've discussed this with the board. And based on these applications, both applicants fulfill all the obligations. Can I get a bit back? So, based on these, the board has decided to propose that the Representative Council will grant special status association, status to Aalto Media Lab Student Association, DADA ry. Opening discussions, requests for floor have not been made. Closing the discussions and moving to decide. And the proposal was that the Representative Council awards special status association to DADA ry. Moving to item 11. At this stage we have had, during the preliminary discussions, we've had people leaving and people arriving, so let's update our roster. We have from Skisma, Aleksanteri Samban Lahtinen, who was said that you will be late. Then we had Visa Pollari from Skisma. How many people does Skisma have? 7, including Visa or not? Yes. So we have Visa here. Then from Kultari Eloranta left at 6:21. And Voltti Tittasaari left 18:34. And during item 10 we had Kultari Rangas Kulikov 18:44. Excuse themselves. When was Visa and Alexander came at 6:15 both. Item 11, which would be the special status of Aalto Management and International Business Association. Do you want to get the application? Do you want to present anything else? Well, as I said before, both applications have been taken under scrutiny and both associations fulfill all the obligations. So we propose that also this proposal will be approved. Opening discussions. Any requests for the floor have not been made. Closing discussions. Moving to decide. The proposal was that the representative council decide the current special status association called Management and International Business (AYYE) decided. Then, moving to item 12, which will be setting up the council committees. Before this, we could actually take a look. Do you want a break before this item? During the break item, if we are voting, we will have a break. But it would be nice, maybe nice that we can take here on the whiteboard, get kind of this matrix, who have applied and from where, which lacks the latest. We have Tyko Virtio, so the latest. And after that, we've had 3 more, Peppi Viden, Peppi Seppälä, and Touko Aro Heikki, who have applied. Now you did it wrong. Do it yourself. So, the interpreter did not hear that. So let's have a 10-minute break, followed by this issue and continuing the meeting at 7 p.m. sharp.
So, meeting break ends at 7:04. Moving to item 12, setting up council committees. In the agenda, what says in the committees is the council will concept committees through a separate decision. The council must, in the case of a committee that it has set up, lay down its tasks, term of service, chairperson and members. Unless something else arises as a result of these rules of procedure or guidelines, the work of the committees of the council is to comply with the rules of procedure of the board insofar as the chairperson of the committees is necessary. So we had many volunteers, willing people to have these committees, but not too much. I'd like to thank you for your active participation and that you feel that the council work is important. Could you please put the Excel up? So, in short, change. Filmilla is in the wrong spot. Filmilla should be on the 22nd line. Nico will fix that. There, yes. Good, excellent. So, there are 3 committees: Financial Committee, Financial Real Estate Committee, that is, Influencing Committee, and Community Committee. We had the discussion previously, and it was important that as many people one can participate, but that we have also a full representation. For that, the big groups get more spots. Then we'll kind of look at it, put it into Excel. Think of a kind of a logarithmic number of spots, and we just thought that the smartest way to do this is to have these deputy spots. And for each 5 spots in the representing council, they get 1 member to 1 committee and 1 deputy spot. We managed to fill all committees, and with the board's template, and the chairpersons thought that it's important that board members would rank the secretaries and the committees. In the Community Committee, it was Hilja Orhonen, Nora Tanska as secretaries, and in the Social Influence Committee, we have Tapio Hautamäki and Suvi Vendelin as secretaries. We talked it through with the board, and these have been divided according to these board members' sectors and tasks, that they are in a suitable committee. My suggestion is that first we choose the chairpersons for the committees. There's a question. There's going to be questions soon. So we'll elect the chairperson first, according to this, established committees. And the original idea was that I don't want to name any coalitions, but in a coalition or a group you have a chairperson, then it kind of takes up the actual spot for a member. There's a proposal for change for this. Santeri, do you want to send it now? Yes. With Luova, that's what we talked with other groups also, is that the idea that the chairperson's spot would take the spot from the member. It seems kind of a peculiar, because the task of the chairperson is very different than the task of a member, because the chairperson really has to be very neutral, listen to everyone. And if the chairperson is the only representative from a certain group, it could cause a situation where the chairperson has very strong interest to guide the discussion to some direction, a certain direction. And that's why the chairperson should be selected separately, and who is neutral, and who has like a separate position of trust to work as a chairperson of the group. And then we have these quotas for members from different groups. So, do you propose that the size of the committees would be chairperson plus 13 members? Yes. What does the board think? Yes, Sade. Yes, Sade backs this up. What does the board think? Yes, it sounds justified. But then we had kind of a time to think about this issue some more. So, first we just want to see that do we have enough applicants for all committees. And on the right we have this column. So put it back up. So we have one applicant for the societal influence committees and two applicants for the finance and real estate committee as the chairpersons. Is this someone who has signed up for the community committee and would like to act as the chairperson? Yes, no. In that case, we'll have a 5-minute break. Yet again, we have 5 minutes to find the person who could act as a chairperson for the committee, and the board will also discuss that. Do we want to change our proposal? So, meeting break 1910 ends at 1915. proposal for change, proposed by Santeri Nuotio and backed by Sade Palmu, and the contents of the proposal was that we will increase the size of the committees by 1, so that they have 1 chairperson and 13 members. Please deliver it in writing, then we can discuss this. I think this is smart and will make it easier the chairperson's task, so they don't have to think that do they represent a group or do they act the facilitators for discussion. Yes, I agree. This seems a very good proposal. It would make the chairperson's role clearer and wouldn't take away from small groups their own representatives, potentially. Any other comments? Yes, and board. Yes, thank you for comments. We just discussed with the board, and we feel that this proposal is pretty good. So we take it to our names as the proposal. Well, it increases the size of the committees, but it's not the size of the committees is now 14 compared to 13, so it still needs 7 people to have quorum. And it was really good ground, so the board has now changed their own proposal. And the new proposal is that the committees, 3 committees, all have 30 members plus the chairperson. And if there is no further discussion, apparently not, then we can start deciding the chairperson. I think the secretaries should be kept somewhere else. It would be clearer that how the committees work, what they do, and then looked at should we have a member of the board or an employee of AYYE as a secretary, which would be smarter. It would be smarter to decide the secretary later, because it's been decided now. I don't think that's very wise. Yes? Some employees have said that they could take more part more in the actions of or meetings of the committees. And the board's proposal says that the board members act as secretaries. They've already nominated, but we can have a few speeches as for the secretaries of the committees, especially for people who have acted as secretaries or members of committees previously. So any comments, questions? No? Well, a few words to say myself. I was secretary for the Financial Real Estate Committee, and I feel that it was a really good arrangement. That were 2 members of the board. So we took turns that the other person took care of the agenda and the other person took care of the practical issues. So there's very easy ways to handle it, and then we also invited employees when needed, and they did come. So we're going to have 2 secretaries, and the other person is not a member of the board and doesn't take part in the meetings. But when we know what we're doing, then it's easier for us to really choose the secretaries. So I think it's wise to now lock down anything regarding the secretaries, because it may reveal itself in the future to be not very wise decision. Well, can we change in the future if we see that it doesn't work? Yes, we can. And we'll hope that there is good contact with the board members and the representing council members, so it's kind of dumb to propose that secretaries are not present. So the board's proposal is that the secretaries are members of the board. So Pepe, do you want to make a proposal for change, or? I think we can change the proposal. So it's this discussion. Since that there's no further discussion on the subject, There were many supporters for board members, acting secretaries. Then we'll move forward and start selecting the chairpersons. So let's start with Finance and Real Estate Committee. We have 2 nominees, 2 candidates, Annika Lehmanen and Emme Filman. So I propose that we'll have the same way as choosing the vice chairpersons for the representing council. So we have to vote, and then first the candidates will introduce themselves, 3 minutes per candidate, and then you can ask questions for a couple of minutes, and then we'll vote with a closed ballot vote on who will be elected as the chairperson. For other committees, we only have 1 candidate as the chairperson. Let's go through them. For the Social Influence Committee, we have 1 candidate, Peppe Seppälä. And for Community Committee, we have 1 candidate, Noora Torpo, so we don't have to vote on those, because there's only 1 candidate. So opening discussion, and during that you can also nominate yourself or someone else as a chairperson for some of the committees. No new candidates. So next we will draw lots to see which will be first to present themselves. Open random.org, or do you want to decide yourself? Does it matter? Do you have any preference? Well, then you who's closer will come here. Now please stand there, introduce yourself in short, and then a couple of minutes for questions. I will time you and I'll tell you when you only have 1 minute left. Yes, you can start now. Yes, hello everyone, I'm Annika Lehmanen, 4th year student of real estate business and member of Luova here at the Representing Council. I would have wanted to be there previous year, but I was an exchange student, so I was only been able to be just 6 months last year. I think the most important thing as the role of chairperson is to get everyone's voice heard and to encourage people, create this kind of a nice atmosphere that everyone feels it's nice to come to the meeting and feel inspired. And if you don't have any idea of something, you can form your opinion during the meeting. And I think my strength is that I don't tell my own opinions first. I listen to others. So Tokiva, chairperson, about this position, and heard a lot of good things, and I'm just more passionate about this task this year. That was it in short. Yes, any questions for the candidates? You have 2 minutes to ask them. Thank you. So was chairperson last year? No, I was an exchange student. Yes, I know what has happened in the meetings, though. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes? Do you have any previous experience with working as a chairperson? Yes, I would have the title of a chairperson, but I've been a vice chairperson in different institutes for 3 years, so I've held meetings both at work and here at Notaniemi, and I've received positive feedback on those meetings. Any other questions? If no, then thank you, Anni. Do you want to say something to conclude your speech? I just have a slogan. I don't have one, but I hope that I'll be elected because I have experience in getting other people's voices heard, everyone's voices. Thank you. And, Emil, please come forward too. You have 3 minutes to present yourself, and 10 minutes, and then a concluding speech. I'll say when you have 1 minute left for the 3 minutes. You can start now. Yes, hello everyone, I'm Emil, 4th year student at Aalto. Last year I was a member of the Finance and Real Estate Committee. I felt I have a lot to give to the committee in order to make its operations more continuous and raise important issues and also communicate these issues to the representative council. I haven't acted as a chairperson before, but I have experience in holding workshops and organizing different events. So I have experience in this subject. Was that it? Yes. And a few minutes for questions. Any questions? So why are you interested in a finance real estate committee? It's very important to me because I feel that we're a very big organization, and when we make decisions we have to have grounds for those decisions. And we have to think this through before making decisions if you don't have the grounds for them. Any other questions? If not, then please you have some concluding speech, anything to say. I hope that I will be elected as the chairperson for the Finance and Real Estate Committee. A very good candidate also in the competition, but I feel that the experience I gained from last year from the committee is seen valuable, and I have a lot to give for the committee. Thank you. So then move on to the vote. So the vote goes as follows. The Secretary General will call out your name. You will come here first. The vote counters, please. Yes. So the Secretary General will call out your name, after which you will come forward. One of the vote counters will give you the voting slip, where you will write down the person's surname who you are voting for. We'll write them down on the blackboard, and the other person will hold the ballot box. Where do we get one? Yes, we will find it somewhere. And then you exit the room. Once the voting is finished, there shouldn't be anyone else here besides the vote counters, Secretary General, me, and the interpreters. My Excel broke down, so it'll take a while. Where did we get the ballot box? Something out for ballot box, size of a football. Yes, this is our ballot box. Yes, you can check that it's empty. There are no slips here. Now it's empty. Okay. So slips are, please take them. So which one will hold the box and which one will hand out the slips? So please stand there. We have old names on these slips.
All right. Vote counters, if you may. We counted the votes. We received a total of 39 votes, out of which 1 was empty and 0 were disqualified. Kolehmainen received 32 and Fielman 6 votes. "39 people with the right to vote." Now we have a chairperson for the committees. Now we have the places and applicants. Is Fielman, yes, available for the committees as a regular member? Of course, yes. And in addition to the vote counting, we had a question regarding that. Can I place myself as a chairperson candidate for the other committees? But I closed it already, so now that we have 3 applicants for 3 committees. This is pretty clear to everyone. Nobody's unclear or doesn't feel bad. You feel bad or not? No, you don't feel bad. Well, to me it was very unclear that if you people who would like to set themselves up as a candidate, we should let them set themselves as a candidate. We have people who'd like to be a chairperson for the committees. So I think it's a bit unclear on why it was closed at first. I think I was pretty clear that we closed them all. Let's ask it so that it was clear. We have the candidates for all committees. Chairperson, this is what we're going to do. Of course, you may be a member of the committee, so chairpersonship is not a deal breaker. You understand. So let's go with these. We have 3 chairpersons. And these sizes of the committees, let's go through 1 committee at a time. How many people do we have who are substitutes, who are not substitutes? Then we can discuss secretaries. Start with the Real Estate and Financial Committee. No. The upmost box. Take that. It's good like that. So, check out the bottom hand. So, how many members do we have? 14 people in the. We have 1 out of Chem, 3 out of Kultarengas, 1 from Luja, 2 from Luova, 1 Aalto, 1 Voltti, 1 Skisma, 3 and Polytechnic 1. I have to ask that. I have lots of new representative council. They don't understand. Like, I request for a proposal for change that we open up the candidateship once again so the people don't feel like shit. Is there somebody who wishes to go for the chairperson? Is there somebody who wants to set themselves as a candidate for chairpersonship? If there's some people who want to do that, you can do it. Advocacy committee and societal influence. So, what do you think? Do we want to vote on this? People in favor, people opposing? Let's do another round of voting then. So, this will take, that's okay. So, 3 minutes per candidate. Quick rounds of introductions, followed by the interpreter did not hear that. Opening discussions. We have voted that we have the Financial Real Estate Committee chairperson has been voted. We have 2 for the Societal Influencing Committee and 1 for the Community Committee. Do we have other candidates for these chairpersonships? Can you talk? No. Do we have any representatives? if the loser wants to apply for another one. Like we are voting here and then the loser. No, this is not what we are doing now. You have to apply for both. You may then withdraw from the competition. We have a number of votes. You may withdraw if you feel like you want to apply for just one or both. But I see that we only have no other candidates, so closing the candidateships. Okay, this is a very good lift. This is the whole point is not that everybody feels bad or anybody feels bad. So starting with the presentations for the candidates. Which one wants to go first? Is there any point to this, or interpreter did not hear that? Let's draw lots. We are lottering. Maximum is 2. 1 is Peppi and 2 is... Okay. Come here, 3 minutes. Go, go. There we go. Taking the time. Hello everyone, I'm Nicola, 4th year Gulderi business student, and as you've maybe noticed, I'm a new representative council member, so I'm not aware of everything. I have more enthusiasm though, that's why I want to be a chairperson. As a chairperson I've been at KY, for example, in the international section, so I'm familiar with it. Went pretty nice. At least that's the feedback I got from my own board. As a chairperson I'm pretty fair. And how would I say it? I'm interested in the people who work with me, and I'm not like I'm doing my own thing. I'm interested in the community. I'm interested in the projects of others. Okay, that's that. Questions? Why'd you apply for a societal influence committee? Well, out of the topics, there's a lot of happening. I found it interesting. Also, educational policy is interesting, and I get to affect it and our studies in a direct manner. What would be your vision on how the Societal Influencing Committee could do this upcoming year? Well, of course, there's a policy paper thing, but I think that generally we should think of what can the committee do. We could get more goals because we have a new committee, so we haven't really made a lot of changes. Well, we don't make changes, but make the work. So advocate those changes, so more efficiency to our actions. Other questions? You don't have any previous experience on committee work? Do you know what kind of experience do you have of committee actions? I haven't been in a committee. I'm new. I haven't been in the representative council, but what I've learned you can get people from the board, and you get a suggestion. We work on it, and then we present it to the representative council, and the council does the decisions. Thank you. Time for one more question. Kind of finishing argument. Don't know. Vote if you want me to be and do something new and amazing. Thank you. Then, Peppi, if you may. 2 minutes of questions followed by that. Okay, you can begin. Hello, I'm Peppi. I'm an nth year master's degree student from the chemistry part. I was in the Societal Influencing Committee last year. I was a campus sector chairperson, also been the director for the stuff. I have kilometers worth of different types of jobs. I've done all kinds of things. Last year I liked the Societal Influencing Committee work, and really I was an amazing chairperson, and we get this kind of a really great touch with her on how to lead Societal Influence Committee work, and I work to continue her great legacy to get things running and everything happens in an orderly fashion, and things are progressing So we did a lot of stuff like, for example, the policy paper renewal, and that was a big thing, and that's something that can be expanded. I have pretty quite clear visions. We have the parliamentary elections coming up, so this is kind of what the Societal Influencing Committee will have a big stance on. So these are quite clear on how can we grow our operations, what can we do. So I have a kind of an active role on advocacy and influencing. So we keep kind of a touch to the community, and let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's kind of something that everybody is afraid of, but I understand that the committee does not do the decisions, they do the preparation work, and the representative council does the decisions. So we can start exploring new things, but as a chairperson, I want to enable conversation, not shut it down. So rather more we can actually discuss things about, for example, when the parliamentary elections, we discussed issues that would have not been discussed otherwise. So yes, we have the elections, and we have also the municipal, large-scale municipal elections. I think I can bring my expertise to bear that we wouldn't find in other parts. Thank you. 2 minutes for questions. How do you, in this committee, where do the topics come from? Come from the board and from the representative council? Does it like there's a link between them, or will the representative council give this issue, or will the chairperson give these issues? How do you see that this kind of divvying up would actually take place? So it's also dictated in our committee drafting paper that from the board's agenda we have these issues. The chairperson can have us kind of an issue, focus on what kind of weight will specific issues get. Of course, we don't know if we got the elections for municipal large areas, so we don't even know when they're coming. And I wouldn't really, as a chairperson, really use my power to squash or focus, but rather expand and broaden the discussion, because we are a volunteer group, so even though like we would have had something at the board that they don't want to do, of course that needs to take a stance. But to start with, we get from the board's program agenda. Nope. Last remarks. I have the expertise, I have the enthusiasm, I've been 2 or 4 years in the Representative Council, I'm going 100%, I've lobbied the committees a lot. So, thank you. I ask the board and people without a voting right to remove themselves from the room, and the everybody back in the hall. They received 39 votes, 1 was empty and 1 was disqualified. Gregov got 22 and Seppälä 15. Let's move on swiftly because the orderly told that we should leave the place at 8. It's well past 8. No, we're not going to leave. But let's be leaving the place before 10. Wait that the Secretary General can get going. You can update the chart. Societal influencing, you can get the names. Who's a member, who's the chairperson, etc., etc. We have the Societal Influencing Committee, which is up. You can see that Nikola Gregov is click and move it there. Then delete. This is how you do it. Now we're going down, so we go through the list. In any group has over 14 members. All stakeholder groups of the Representative Council have had a chance to appoint members, so they are in accordance. We have making the fulfilling us now that we have the chair people. In real estate, financial spot is unused. Pro-art spot is unused. Skisma has proposed. Do we have any willing members to other committees? I could be a substitute member. The real estate committee. Yes. Sandra Nuotio. Substitute member. Add it in the end. There we go, there we have Santeri Nuotio. Italo Skisma, I would be placed in the community committee, but to replace Torsa. You weren't in any? No. Almo from Luova. From Luova. We have a few names that have been lost along the way, so we'd have for AYYE, for Advocacy and Societal Influence Committee, Saana Rossi. There's nobody there, so just add it there. And for Community Committee, we were missing a substitute for Henry, which will be Emmi Kosola. Or Emmi Kosola. We have received the things required pending. Adding those there. Regarding secretaries, I say that let's not. We have one spot opening. Saana for AYYE. Actual member. For the community committee as a representative substitute. Emmi Kosola. Okay. Any other comments? Got to add something. As Ella Oksalainen raised to AYYE as an actual member and Juho to a substitute. If we have lots of more substitutes, I hope we won't get more substitutes. That we can actually fulfill it later if we don't have any more coming. No? Yes? Awesome. Ella Oksala over there and I'm crossed as both a member and a substitute. Paavola is a substitute. You want to be an original member? So if we have both, so you'll just won't be a substitute. So if you get into an actual spot, so we are running out of time. So the template is that the board members will act as secretaries. If we don't want to discuss this more, we don't go with this, but we'll go with the template. If required, we can change the secretaries as time goes by. So the committees have been decided, and we can move to decide. The Representative Council decided to set up a Finance and Real Estate Committee, a Community Committee, and a Societal Influence Committee. Decided that we set as the task of the Council Committee to support the preparation of the decision-making of the Student Union by making statements on matters that relate to the theme of the committee, both independently and upon the request of the Board of the Workers of AYYE. The committees carry out the task in a way that they see best and will get the support, training and presentations of issues what they want from the Board of AYYE, the Workers of AYYE, separate experts or volunteers. The proposal, the Council decided to set the calendar year 2018 as the terms of service for each committee. Also decided to appoint the chairpersons and members of the committees according to Appendix 12, and decided to oblige the committees to report on the works of the Council and the meetings of the Council. Decided. Closing item 12, moving on to item 13, preliminary discussion on the updating of the housing regulation.
Our experts, please come here, thank you. So, will Emma come here, or will you make notes? Or okay, Emma will take notes. So come here, introduce yourselves, then we'll go through this. And if you want to speak, please keep it short. If there's anything to add to the discussion or a new point of view, then please try to avoid kind of speeches where you just say that I agree. You can use the slips for that. Please present yourselves, then let's get started. Hello, I'm Annika Mällinen, Housing Secretary. Kirsi, Housing Secretary. Again, I'm also the Housing Secretary. And Annika will speak. The purpose of the presentation is to go through these practical changes that we will propose for the housing regulations. I don't have these small terminological changes that we will also propose, so we'll go through the bigger changes that will actually change our practical operations. For the preliminary discussion, so we'll now comment on the big policies and about is this the right way to go. We will not yet decide on any changes, we will now just discuss, not make any decisions. So why do we want to reform the housing regulations? It was last time it was updated was in 2013, and AYYE's housing operations have changed a lot after that, mostly because of our DOMO system. Applying through the DOMO system, the application process has changed, and also our housing work and the processes and the terminology. And the biggest challenges that we will now discuss, we have two themes: the quoting system. Now, applying for apartments, it will change a lot because of the DOMA system. We also discussed the validity of the applications, because it relates a lot to the how many empty apartments we have and about the apartment offers also. Another theme that we have is that we'll try to make this more flexible and easier from the perspective of the tenants. So we try to update the regulations into a direction which would support the life situations of as many students as possible. So first we'll go through the changes to the applications in such a format that first we have the current wording, and then we have a proposal for change underneath. Sometimes they are very long, so they are on different slides, and on purple are our grounds on why we see this as necessary. So do you want me to read this out loud, or yes, maybe the grounds, yes. So here we've added the chapter about apartments open for everyone, because AYYE has in Eastern Helsinki apartments where no members of AYYE are applying for, and that's why we had to have this practice that we can also offer our apartments to other people than just AYYE members. At the moment, we don't have resources for housing secretaries to offer these apartments to these people. We have Kiinteistömaailmat company doing that. For example, in Rouhivuori and Vuosaari, we have big apartments where no members want to apply for. So that's why we want to have this addition that we can also offer the apartments to persons who are not members of AYYE. Any questions? I think it's very smart. As long as we have a buffer for AYYE members, but yes, we'll have a lot of rental losses because they're big apartments with high rents, so it's very big economic losses. And it's not permanent for outsiders, the accommodation. Yes, it's always for 3 years, the residence permit. And then we checked if there are any AYYE members in the quo who we could offer the apartment to. Yes. Let's go on. There's a longer section where it is here, and here's the new wording. Here we want to specify this what kind of apartments can be applied for loan and how living in a family apartment is different from living in a friend apartment. Because in family apartments, only one of the applicants needs to be a member of AYYE, and family apartments can also be you can also apply for studios. Previously, it was pretty heavy, this wording here. And we also talked about what kind of agreements we can get for what kind of apartments. So we tried to clarify the phrasing that what apartments you can apply to with whom. And we also specified that what it means when you live as a family in an AYYE apartment. So you live as a family when you apply for your partner or spouse or you have children, but you're not applying as a family, for example with your sibling or your sister, that is. And the difference between friend and family apartments is that we want our apartments to have as many members of AYYE as possible. Family apartments have this special right that only one needs to be a member of AYYE, but in friend apartments all applicants must be members of AYYE. Any comments? No. Moving on. About the housing application. Here, the previous formatting is it's outdated. Previously we said that our first-year students have kind of different rights or obligations to pay for their tuition membership fee, because all students pay the membership fee at the same time and in the same way. So if any student at all hasn't paid their membership fee, then we can remove that person from the housing quo. So if you don't pay your membership fee, you can't use the member services. That is living in an AYYE apartment. And an exception are this, the people who are non-attending, for example because of military service, then you can be in the housing quo without paying the membership fee. But those are defined separately in these regulations. So the grounds are here on the separate slide. This is a bigger change. We will change the validity of applications from 6 months to 3 months, because 6 months is a really long time for the applications, and in 6 months the life situation of the applicants usually change, even several times. For example, if exchange students apply for an apartment, it is valid for 6 months, their application, then most likely they managed to get an apartment in that time, but they still remain in the quo with their urgency scoring. They're right at the top of the list, which means that there's a lot of empty space here in the quo, because person's life situation can change. And when we send the offers, then people will reject them because they don't correspond to their needs that they had when making the application. And this causes financial losses to us, because when you offer the apartments and people don't want to accept them, they reject them or they just let them expire. And this expiration is even more difficult issue because it takes 5 days for it to expire. And when people reject them or let them expire, it means that we don't have time to offer the apartment to anyone, and then they're empty. And when the apartments are empty, it causes financial losses, which also reflects in the level of rent for everyone. Any comments? I was talking about this definition of a spouse or partner. How do you define it? We trust people in this definition. We don't require any certificates or anything, but does it mean, does it give right for misuse? The member could apply with their friend for a friend apartment, saying that they are partners. Yes, that is true. But our housing office's motto is that we trust people and people give correct information. So you can fake that you are in a relationship, but I don't think it's for up to our to decide. And when you say that you're a partner, then you have a family agreement, and then it also affects, for example, that person's housing allowance, because then Kela sees that these people are partners. And then when they live somewhere else, it can also affect that, when you have been previously marked as someone's partner. Yeah, so we hope that people are not that treacherous. Never knows. Funny this that if the secretaries would come to the apartment and we ask you to kiss each other. So, any other comments, questions? An exchange student? Is the 3 months a good time? That you already managed to find the apartment in that time. If you compare it to 6 months. So is it usually expired in 3 months? Outdated the need? Then we looked after 3 months. But also in 6 months at Domo, the Domo sends messages before it expires the application. Then you have time to renew the application. Then when it says that it's about to expire in 2 weeks, I meant to ask that, is the 3 months, is it, when you look at exchange students, when they come study here, is 3 months the appropriate time for when they're here to study? That you can, after 3 months, can change that their need for an apartment has been outdated. So is it 3 months is good? Should it be shorter or longer? Yes, but you can renew it. But if you renew it for 3 months, then you have 6 months in total, and then it's the same situation. 3 months is this to... Yes, but you reflect the situation. 3 months is a different thing. Let it just be here for 6 months without looking at the application at all. So the question is, would it be 2 or 4 months? Would it be better? The example from, for example, the Helsinki City Apartments and Hoas, they both have 3 months validity. And 2 months is too short, 4 months is too long. The important thing is that we should focus on how much we should shorten it. It's just good that we should shorten the duration. It's an excellent point, because it's really easy to just renew the application, just click a button. Then it could be just 2 months, for example. We can be able to react more often. So in 3 months, if you haven't found anything, but then you found like 15 days after that, then it would be a good idea to... Yes, anything else? No, moving on. So I have to check where I am in this document. There's another big change when applying for an apartment. At the moment, when a person receives an apartment offer and decides to reject it, or it expires, then that person's all applications to all apartment groups will be returned back to the queue without needing to do anything themselves. Only the apartment group where you received the offer from, it is not returned there. But here we want to change things so that when you receive an apartment offer, it doesn't matter whether you accept it or whether you reject it or whether you let it expire. In either case, you have to reflect that what you want to return in the queue. If when you reject, accept or let it expire, you can decide yourself what 3 apartment groups, the queues where you want to return the application to. The automatic returning to the queues creates this kind of an empty space in the queues. Receive an offer, and it's from Pitäjänmäki studio and you don't want to go there, then you reject it or let it expire, everything goes back to the queue. Then there's a new place from Takatöle, from studio, you don't want that, then you just continue. It creates problems that we just send out these offers, but people reject them because they have the possibility to continue queuing. And it's stupid because in the Domo system you actually can, apartment specifically, you can choose where you want to apply to. So when you make an application, you can reflect back then that what kind of apartment you want. And in the future, you can also make more applications or remove apartments, so you can modify your applications. So it's kind of stupid that when we send out the offers, people can just reject or let them expire as much as they want to, because it makes a very inefficient offering process and it also leaves apartments empty. And the same way as for the long validity of the applications. So it'll hand out a lot of offers when people just apply to everything to make sure. So the point when you receive the apartment offer, then it doesn't matter whether you accept it or whether you reject it or whether you let it expire. In either case, you can only return 3 apartment groups to the queue, and an apartment group refers to a different apartment type in a particular location. For example, studios in Tekkari village or 2-room apartments in Töölö or something like that. So the apartment group is defined by the type of the apartment and its location. So if you get, for example, a studio from Etutöölö and you want to continue queuing, for example, to Tekkari village studios, you can reject the offer and choose 3 more where you will continue queuing for. So now the situation is that you can apply for an apartment and you can reject as many offers as you want to, and it doesn't, there's like no sanction. You have to think that where you want to live. But if you receive an offer, accept, then you can only return 2 applications. It's funny that it's like you are punished for accepting, not for rejecting them. This sounds good, but I want to make sure that it's clear for the person who rejects it or lets it expire. In that situation, that we say that hey, you had to do something, that they don't expire by accident and they are removed from the queue. Yes, Domo really spams these emails that you have a month to return the apartments to the queue, so you really can't miss it if you follow your email. No other comments. Then just a side note. Previously we talked in the communications notification of tenant selection that people can at a weekend send these offers also via post, but we don't do that anymore because we have the electronic application, so you cannot apply for apartments via post like in written form. You have to do it via Domo, so it only makes sense that we also send all the offers through Domo. No comments. Now let's move on to the second theme. So flexibility to facilitate people's lives. First is this Mikkeli case. Previously there wasn't even a word about Mikkeli in the regulations. We just had this practice that people who come from Mikkeli, they first have their bachelor's degree there, and then when they come here to study for the master's degree, they have been treated as new students, master's students who will receive 2 years right of residence. But the practice in Mikkeli is that you only study for 2.5 years, and you can move to Helsinki after 2.5 years. Then we change it so that people from Mikkeli, when they start their bachelor studies, they are granted this 5-year right of residence as other people are in the Helsinki metropolitan area. And then after 2.5 years, when they have then they have 2.5 years more for the right of residence. So not in a way that they are treated as new master students whose studies start in autumn, because usually they can start their studies already in the spring. And also students from Mikkeli, right when they start their studies, they can make applications in Domo. And when they've studied for 2.5 years, they are, for example, being quo for that whole time, then when they come here, they usually get the apartment they want. Comments, questions? It's a really good change. So I concur, this is a really good change. It's a really good change because that all member student union are equal thanks to this change. Okay. Here we have specified the extension for right of residence. So if a person is in an exceptional situation, for example, their studies have been slowed down because of a health issue, then their right of residence can be extended by a maximum of 1 year. And we've specified this, that if they have this medical certificate which states the effect of these health reasons on their studies, then the housing office can also make this decision. For example, in acute situation where a person's right of residence is about to expire, then you have to make an application for the housing committee. It can be a very slow process, and at that point, before that, the person's right of residence can already expire. So they can also visit the housing office and we can decide it there if the person has the appropriate documents. And we can add the extension to the original right of residence. So if a person has expired their right of residence, and they bring the document to the office which says that health-related issues have slowed down their studies, then we can make the decision that we can extend their right of residence and can add it to the original right of residence. There's a bigger package here. First, we're changing the name of the section. It's suspension of the reduction. Now let's talk about suspension of tenancy. People can suspend it when they live there, which doesn't really make sense. So that's when we talk about suspension of the reduction of the right of residence. And you can suspend it, for example, if you're doing military service. When we talk about military service, studies abroad including the Aalto University degree, or internship abroad including the Aalto University degree, or other grounds. So I want to also add for voluntary military service, or maternity, paternity, or parental leave, and also we add your studies there. If you study to do your studies in another university, it's very similar to exchange studies, which means in another university, and it shouldn't matter whether that university is outside Finland or within Finland, because you move to another area and you cannot use our housing services. Then we also redefined the neighboring municipalities, because currently they include Helsinki, Espoo, Vantaa, Kauniainen, Kirkkonummi, Vihti, Nurmijärvi, Kerava, Tuusula, Järvenpää, and Sipoo. Now the definition is like that because it's really not clear that where we've come up with these definitions, but for example, that Kirkkonummi is a neighboring municipality. There's a very old HSL public transport thing. In practice, if you live in Kirkkonummi in the countryside, it's more difficult to come to Helsinki from there than from Lahti or Tampere. There's people who apply for apartments and live in some of the municipalities that are defined as neighboring municipalities, and it's absurd to say that it's a neighboring municipality because it's so difficult to get here from that place. So that's the new definition for neighboring municipalities. Helsinki, Espoo, Vantaa on Kauniainen. Any other comments, questions? Yes, that's a new addition, this maternity, paternity, or parental leave. You can suspend your right of residence if you take one of those leaves. Because when you go to your military service or internship or exchange studies, you have to put your apartment on secondary lease. But when you have a family, it's an exception that you don't have to leave the apartment in order to suspend it, your right of residence, and it's defined in that way in the current regulations. Here we just added that we can also retrospectively extend a person's right of residence. So if a person has, for example, a health-related obstacle that prevents them from living independently in their own apartment, and when they get sick, then they cannot really predict that how long it will take, how long it will last, their condition, how long they will prevent from using their own apartment. For example, if they have to go to a medical ward. Thus we have to be able to compensate for or suspend the right of residence also retrospectively. When people can say that how long it has lasted, this condition, how it has affected their housing. Any questions, comments? No? Then we have the secondary leasing of an apartment, which the current form is that we will add that we can put it on lease it to also to other people when you go to your studies, and that it can also be put on secondary lease during all these things listed, military service, your studies. It can be put on leased also to other people than members of AYYE, because now you can only put it on secondary lease and give it to a member of AYYE. It has caused problems for many people, and then we've had to handle these matters in the housing committee. For example, when people receive the information that they have to go to their exchange studies, they don't have time to find a person who is a member of AYYE to live in their apartment. So now we have to give people the possibility to put their apartment secondary lease to a person who is not a member of AYYE. But in that case, if you put it on secondary lease to a person who is not a member of AYYE, you cannot suspend or you do not get compensation for your right of residence for that time. But yeah, we also want to make sure that we have as many AYYE members living in our apartments as possible. Then it's the last section that we're going to discuss here. We changed the section about termination, because now if you lived in a friend apartment and your friend's right of residence has ended, then your rental agreement has been terminated. But now we want to change it so that when you live in a friend apartment, it doesn't matter that your friend's right of residence expires, because you can live there as long as there's at least one person who has their right of residence. So then it will be kind of similar to the family housing. It's enough that there's just one person who has enough right of residence. But the difference between family and friend housing is that all of them need to be members of AYYE in the friend apartment. But you can live there longer, even after your right of residence has expired, as long as you have a friend who still has a valid right of residence. So you just have to lure freshmen into your apartment to live there. There's a possibility that you can. So, like example, that I do not have a valid right of residence, can I still apply for an apartment? Yes, you can also apply with a person who has a valid right of residence, as long as you remember yourself. Thank you. Do you have an estimate of how much this causes kind of that people try to get when they expire, then they apply with the person who still has a valid. And it is 5 years of residence time is very well justified, and you would really go around that with this change. So how many people without right of residence would have living in AOS apartments after this change? Do you have an estimate? Depends on people applying. If you apply for 2-room apartment or bigger, you only get 1 point if all people have a valid right of residence, and that's very significant, especially for popular areas. And also this kind of change, a friend exchange, it's very strictly limited. It needs to be a person who lives in another apartment, and then you'd have lived 6 months somewhere else before. You need to have lived there 6 months before you can do the friend exchange. And Sandra? Is the idea that the change won't really change anything because the extra credits that you have there are so important in these friend apartment quos that these old farts really just can't get into any apartments because they don't have enough points. There's the point that just the 5 years it guarantees that these apartments, that people in there change, and people who actually study have the chance in 5 years to use those apartments. So if this slows down the rotation, the changing of people, then I think it does really improve the housing situation. Well, I know would slow down the changing, but we make it easier for those people who live together with a friend, and when the other person there, right of residence is about to expire, they can still live there. It makes their situation easier. But if you're like studying for the 15th year and you want to apply with a freshman, you don't have as a good chance to get the apartment as a person who is applying for the first time and they both have the right of residence. So then in front of the quo with the score. But it makes it easier for those who are like finishing their studies, but then they just you have to make your master's thesis, and then you also terminate your rental agreement. I just want to remind that we have also limited study time. There is a reason like time that for 10th year students living, they will have a good reason for studying it. We have this like eternal students, we have them much fewer than we had before. And as freshmen usually like lose it's a lot if they start applying for a apartment. But don't they get like many invitations to their apartments? Well, we don't have statistics on that, but thinking that did this affect, for example, a friend apartment if one of the person's right of residence is about to expires? or the other person. Can you live there alone if one person just leaves there, just terminates their agreement? No, you can't do that also in the future. There's the rule that we don't rent big apartments to one person. That won't change. So if someone decides to terminate their contract, they can still live there for 3 or 6 months, the second person. But this is only for that if it expires, then you can live there, okay. So we don't terminate anyone's agreement because the other person's residence time has expired.
So, if we have friends living and one moves away to leave 6 months, now that the housing allowance has changed, there's a lot that people will stay in the apartments alone for the 6 months. I've been thinking of, can this be somehow weeded out? But I don't really have an answer for it. It should be something that you'd keep in mind. It would be pertaining to our interest that we have 2 people living there. It can't be weeded out. We can't break the law regarding rental apartments. So there also might be the situation where you just can't find a new apartment. For example, I live in Olari, which is moldy at the moment. Does this mean that if you have a person A, a person B, and B runs out of the right to residence, and then A takes person C, and when person A runs out of right of residence, can person C stay there and take person D? No. Person C cannot enter the apartment as a main tenant from the outside, so you can't make a third main tenant. So at which stage will it rescind? Well, we have person A when they've ended, and when person B, when both A and B have run out of right of residence. So this person hasn't kind of done this. Meaning like kind of a gradual shift, 1, 2, 1, 2. Like if you have people changing from one friend apartment to the other. Yeah, you can do changes in friends, but if you run out of right of residence, you have the other person there, and if they leave, then like if a person, there's 2 people in an apartment, one ends the rental agreement and the other person does not have right of residence. It means that the person without the right of residence cannot get a new member there to continue it. So they can't stay there in the apartment forever by just shifting new people in. But what if the new person takes another new person? That works. Yes, that's regular friend exchange style. So friend exchange won't change. Regarding these big 4-person shared apartments, will these become a big liability that they start to roll around like a chained, like just bring in a new person when the old gets out? We're talking about shared apartments or 4-room apartments. Okay. It's not so that it's easy to just get rid of the eldest person who was running out of right of residence and replace them with a new person. It is currently possible. It is possible currently as well without changes. You can make an unlimited amount of friends exchanges. The interpreter did not hear that. Of course, currently you can make friend exchanges unlimited people by, for example, posing as their fiancé or partner or stuff like that. I think that you can live at most 8 years. The people who've kind of the oldest length of the chain. Currently, you can only live 5 years. I think that's the point. Like if the eldest always leaves and you get a new person. Yes. So the people in intermediary people with friend exchanges, it's possible to live for that year. But friend exchange is not a simple process. So if somebody wants to do it, then by all means. If we mean like if we have 3 friends and one of which would be changed that's currently in a friend apartment, you can't have people living in an apartment with no right of residence. So you could like change like there's the oldest person leaving a new young person with no right of residence. Currently it's not possible. But with this change we aim to uphold these friend housing and their actually willingness of people to actually apply for them, because we don't have people applying for friend housing because the shift to a general housing allowance has been implemented, which makes living in a communal house very hard. And this kind of motivates. Last comment. It's a good last comment because I was saying that first of all, a big hand for the housing office because this has been prepared really well. Nice work. It was really nice to go through this, and I say that it's 9 p.m, which means it's 9 p.m. Thank you for good argumentation, which was clear and concise. Okay, closing discussions. Moving to the side, the proposal was that the Representative Council decides to place on record the preliminary discussion decided. Moving on to item 14, other items. Opening discussions. Any other items or resolutions? Something about the Facebook group. Like we've read things on Facebook, the idea is that how the changes in gradual activities are undertaken and the quality, so everybody in the Facebook group, but how to comment on the project and discuss is like comment on the project, not the discussion. We make changes to continuous activities and we'll make a proposal based on this discussion. Because 2017 we've had some answers, but not really extensively, which is something that we said that the Representative Council cannot actually evaluate this project because we don't know what we've done last year. Any requests? If there will be like situations where we have to vote, wish would be that if people move away from the meeting room, move away from the door because we can hear the noise inside the room. Anything for the opening? Okay. Do you propose a resolution or not? I can say as much that I will ask our educational policy and committee to answer that. Well, okay, if they'll answer it, no need for a resolution. Okay. Now the request for floor. I'd say that quickly that next Thursday we have the next training, office program, etc. What's upcoming? We're discussing different things. Thank you to everybody who had the tenacity to be here. Sorry about the chairperson's committees voting. I hope everybody is leaving with a good conscience. Closing item 14, moving on to 16, ending the meeting.